Hello and welcome into another edition of Inside Badger Hoops. We have a very exciting and a little bit of a heartbroken show for you here this afternoon. JC, it's been a phenomenal year for both the men's and women's. They've had fantastic seasons. It's been super fun to cover them, and it's kind of sad that it's coming to an end.
Yeah, most definitely. It's been really fun watching the men's be as dominant as they are, going 32-1 overall in the year, and it's just been phenomenal to see the women's finish as strong as they did.
Yeah, speaking of which, we'll start off with the women this time around rather than the men, and then we'll talk about the exciting finish that the men have had to their season here in Ephraim. And so JC, starting with the women, they were able to win the game against Salt Lake at home. That was basically it was the last regular season game, basically a play-in to the Region 18 tournament that happened this past week. We talked about that game on the last show, so we'll go ahead and skip over that. You can always go back and listen to it on the YouTube page. But with this game, because the Lady Badgers won that game, Coach Sue and her team went to Southern Idaho at Twin Falls and played in the Region 18 tournament as the 2 seed, getting North Idaho in the first round. JC, that game was close for most of it. The Badgers were able to pull it out, got a 61-50 win, a double-digit win over a really good North Idaho team who had the Scenic West Athletic Conference Women's Basketball Player of the Year in Esmeralda Galindo, who played phenomenal this season. I mean, she dropped 40 on the Badgers here in Ephraim. She plays very well. But the Coach's team able to pull it out 61-50, and their defense was solid from start to finish in this game.
Yeah, no doubt. And you also had very consistent players on defense. Anna Bay, she came out big with 5 blocks in that game. Lily Sugataraga also had 4 steals and 2 blocks. And the defense as a whole was as good as it can be, honestly. You just talked about Galindo. She was held to 10 points total throughout the game. And of course, offensively, the Badgers really improved in the turnover column as well. Only turned the ball over 14 times, which is a huge improvement. And I think that's the season low for this year.
It could be. It could be.
Yep. And Lady Badgers, they also shot about as good as they can, I think, from the three-point range. Didn't take as many, I think, in comparison to the Cardinals. Only went 5 for 17 from the three-point line. But they also made 8 of 12 of their free throws. So it was a really consistent game on offense and a stellar game on defense.
Yeah, it really was. So it looks like the lowest turnovers is 8. 8 versus Lower Columbia College when that was one of the home games here when the Lady Badgers played it. Lower Columbia in back-to-back days on November 29th and 30th. It was the second game where they had 8 turnovers. So that's the season low, but that's definitely the lowest the Lady Badgers have had in conference play, I believe. No, 13 against Colorado Northwestern, so 1 off. Very low considering their average is just around 20, so definitely an improvement there on the turnover end. The Badgers shot very well from the field in this game. It was a very fun one to follow. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch this, but following up with the live stats for this game definitely reeled you in, or at least it did me.
Yeah, definitely.
And so with that win, Coach Sue's team moved on to the region championship game where the number 4 seed Salt Lake Community College upset CSI. Now, with how tight these rankings were, we talked about it on the last show. I don't really know if you can say there are any upsets in that top 4. I mean, CSI did finish with an 11-4 record in the regular season in conference play, but the Badgers were just 1 game ahead of Salt Lake in the 4th spot. They had the same record as North Idaho. Salt Lake in the 4th spot has the same record as Utah State Eastern, who missed out on the tournament. So I guess you could say it was a little bit of an upset because CSI was the only team to win 10 or more games, and they won 11. So it was an upset in that range, but this was such a round-robin league this year on the women's side of the region tournament that I don't know if you can really say it was much of an upset for Salt Lake beating CSI.
Yeah, exactly that. I mean, CSI, again, only team to finish the conference play with double-digit wins, but I think Salt Lake City Community College was a very consistently good team as well, especially in the games where they're in the tough situations. They're a really grit and grind team, and that's why they came away with that one.
Yep. So the Badgers met Salt Lake Community College for the second time in 2 weeks at CSI for the Region 18 tournament title game. JC, this game started off very well for the Badgers. They forced turnovers early against Salt Lake and got up to a 15-5 lead with about 3 minutes left, just under 3 minutes left in the first quarter. But after that, till the halftime buzzer, it was all Salt Lake, finishing on a 40 14 run where the Badgers were down 45-29 at halftime.
Yeah, and it's really brutal because the Badgers defense has been really, really consistent and stable all year.
It has.
And to see them be exposed like that, it was really heartbreaking to watch as a fan. And the offense just couldn't really respond or anything because when your defense is playing bad, you want your offense to be consistently putting on points in response to their team, and you want to get back and try to get another stop. But in this situation, it just really didn't work out for the Badgers defense, and it was really heartbreaking to see. Congratulations to Salt Lake Community College for being as consistent as they were on offense and being really able to just really kill the Badgers in this one.
Yeah, so the difference was in that first quarter, the Badgers had 6 turnovers, but they forced 7 turnovers on Salt Lake.
Right.
In the second quarter, Salt Lake had 2 turnovers and Snow had 6. So it was 6 and 6 and then 7-2. So
Right.
I mean, it was close. 12-10 at halftime is pretty close, but when Salt Lake is able to force turnovers and score, it makes it really difficult. Also, Salt Lake came into this game as a 30% three-point shooting team, which is actually lower on the season percentage-wise than the Lady Badgers, who shot 32% heading into this game. However, at the end of it, Salt Lake Community College shot 62% from 3 in this game, and Thais De Silva, I believe, went 6 for 8. In this game, and it was 6 for 8 from the three-point line for 24 points, led the Bruins in scoring, and surprisingly didn't make the Region 18 women's tournament team. I'm surprised you don't make it after having that type of a game in the championship. However, that's not really something we need to discuss. But this second half was very entertaining because the Badgers ended up falling in this game only by 4 after being down at halftime. The third quarter was all Badgers outscoring Salt Lake Community College 20-9 in that third quarter to really come back into it.
Right.
And it was a really big thanks to Iona Bay.
Oh, yeah, no doubt. Iona Bay, 11 points in that third quarter, 11 of the Badgers, 20 points, And I really should have picked my words carefully earlier because I made it sound like the Badgers lost by a lot. But that wasn't the case. The Badgers really came out in the second half and were able to come back, cut it down to 54-49. After a one-legged buzzer beater from Richens, which was phenomenal to watch.
That was quite the shot there at the end of the third quarter. Badgers were down. She hits it to cut it even closer. It was a very big-time shot from Hadley Richens.
Yep, and the Badgers even at one point took a 1-point lead in the fourth with 3:12 left, and sadly the Bruins just were able to pull it together and really pull the game out.
Yep, the Badgers were down 1, I believe, with about 20-ish seconds left, or no, I think it was up to 40. It was more than the shot clock, so it was more than 30 seconds. And the Badgers fouled. Salt Lake Community College hits 2 free throws, and then the Badgers were unable to score, and it just kind of, played the free throw game from there. Badgers ended up falling, unfortunately, in the Region 18 title game, 67-63. It's a 4-point loss after being down over 20 points at one point in the game. Very impressive comeback in the second half from Coach Zhu's team. They showed a lot of grit, they showed a lot of fight, but it was unfortunate that they weren't able to pull it out.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, it's definitely a performance that I think they're going to be really, really proud of, and it's definitely one that I think they're not going to reflect on and be like, oh, we lost by this much if we did these things differently. In my opinion, the second half, they did everything right. They just couldn't get the final buzzer on their side.
Yep, and I had interviewed Coach Zhu yesterday for a newspaper article that'll be coming out in just a couple days on the Snowdrift website, the Snow College newspaper website. And I had asked her what it meant for her and her sophomores to be able to go and play in the Region 18 tournament after such a disappointing season last year, because Brooke Pennington, Hawaii Ronki, Ayana Bay, Malia Elliott, all sophomores returning, Suga Turaga, Tui Pulotu, who didn't even get to play last season due to injury, all sophomores coming back, Madison Hosino as well. I feel like there's so many on there, I keep forgetting how many. And that's sophomores Coach Zhu has on her team, but they went 1-9 in conference play last year. So to be able to come back this season, finish with an 8-game improvement in, I guess they had played 15 games in conference this season to just 10 last year, but still improving from a 1-9 to a 9-7 record in conference play, or 9-6 record in conference play is huge. And I mean, they went from 12-15 last season overall to 21-11. So that's a 9-game difference in the regular season as a whole for Coach Zhu and her team. So Coach Zhu really expressed in this, with her answer to my question, that it meant a lot to her players to really go and experience that. Winning at North Idaho was a great experience for them. she definitely said that it was frustrating that the win was still on their mind and stuff right there,
Right.
as it just was a few days ago on Friday. But it was a great experience for her and the team, and that was really Coach Zoo's first time being in that big of a game.
Right.
So for them to only come up short 4 points is a huge step in the right direction for Coach Zoo and the women's basketball program here at Snow College.
Yeah, no doubt. And Coach Zhu, she's a phenomenal coach. I think she's really been excited throughout this year. And you talk about that conference record as well. They did also start at 1-5 in conference play. So for them to finish and have that sort of downer moment of them and have that realization and comeback, it's all the more impressive to finish out and not wanting to finish like they did last year in conference play.
Yeah, it was a great win. Coach Zhu, when I was talking to her, she really expressed how frustrating the end of the season was for them last year. And they had a lot of injuries last year as well with players. And so for them to come back and have this type of season, it was huge for them. And it was really, really fun to watch this year. I had a lot of fun watching and covering this team this season.
Yep, no doubt. A phenomenal team, phenomenal coach, just an overall phenomenal season.
Yep, and Coach Zhu also expressed her excitement for next season when I had asked her. She talked about, because I asked her about Sydney Smith coming back and improvements for the team, her and the coaching staff, and then also for the players. She said she shows a lot of excitement, looking to improve on a lot of things that they did right this year, things that they can improve on that they didn't do so well on. And then she said she's really excited for the freshman class that she's got coming in as well.
Yep, and I don't blame her. It's a great time to be a Badgers fan, great time to be playing on these teams and to be playing for Coach Zhu. I'm excited for next year.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. So heartbreak for Coach Zhu and her team. Heartbreak for us that the season is over for them and we don't get to see any more games here in Ephraim. But, man, it's all stars and crowns for the Snow College men's basketball team. They have been lighting the junior college world on fire this season. Snow College men's basketball program, under the direction of head coach Andrew May this season, finished with a school record 32-1, 32 wins, 1 loss, 25-game winning streak. That's also the longest winning streak in program history, and this program has been playing basketball for over 100 years. Coach May has had a phenomenal season with his teams. Isaac Finlinson, Scenic West Athletic Conference Player of the Year. There's just too many records to talk about for this team this year, JC.
Honestly, there is. 32 overall win season, 32-1 overall in the season, 15-0 in the conference, 13-0 at home, undefeated on the road as well, 25 straight wins as well. I mean, it's just too much to talk about. This team is phenomenal.
Last time the Badgers lost, and the only time they lost, was to a Midland College team out in Texas on a neutral floor where they lost 77-7. Since then, the Badgers, like I said, 25 wins in a row. They haven't lost since November 22nd, and they've been the #1 team in the country since December 16th after their win at Indian Hills. And talking to Coach May, I had asked him in the previous show about what his favorite moment in this season was, and he probably said that win at Indian Hills was the biggest, probably credibility win for them this season, and it felt the best for them this season. So they finished the year top 10 in 5 different offensive statistical categories, top 5 in the 3 shooting categories, 9th in points per game at 91.8, 3rd in field goal percentage at 51.8, 5th in three-point percentage at 39.1, and 2nd in free throw percentage at 76.9% after leading the country in free throw percentage for almost the entire year. JC, they have the #1 offense in the country in terms of efficiency and all the other metrics that the coaches use. I can't remember what they're called, but in terms of the statistical analysis metrics that the coaches use that we don't really have access to, they're #1 in all of those offensive rankings. This has just been a phenomenal year for the Badgers.
Yeah, and no doubt. I think that the biggest takeaway from this team this year is the fact that they're really not a selfish team whatsoever. The amount of depth that this team has as well is just so impressive, and these shooting numbers are the result of the fact that each player wants to at least touch the ball on each offensive drive. And it's just been so fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because also yesterday I talked to Coach May for I'm writing an article about him being Coach of the Year, and then just a recap article for the amazing season that the team has had overall. And so I had asked him, what is it about this team that they play so well together and that their toughness? And he had just really expressed, well, when we play as many tough games as we do, players tend to bond together, and these guys really enjoy playing basketball together. I didn't have to force them to do any team bonding experience for them to be as cohesive as a cohesive unit as they are. as what Coach May type of alluded. And I'm paraphrasing here, so a not exact direct quote, but Coach May just really expressed that these guys love playing basketball together, and they know that when one succeeds, they all succeed. And so if they can help each other succeed, then they will all have a phenomenal year. And that's really just how they want to play. And Coach May has expressed that in multiple occasions when I've talked with them, that just playing together as a team is something that they all enjoy, and it makes for a very efficient and fun team to watch.
Yeah, and me and a good friend of mine, Stockton Porter, we actually interviewed 3 players, Mark Brown Jr., Coleman Ford, Chance Trujillo. We interviewed them as well, and Coleman Ford instinctually, when we asked him what keeps his team together, he said with no hesitation, not a direct quote, but it's the brotherhood on and off the courts that really, really helps them throughout this year, and it's just shown. I mean, you could just tell they love playing alongside each other. They love playing for Coach May, and Mark Brown, he also says that they put in the work every single day, and it's a lot of running as well. He said that as well. And Chance Trujillo, he just says that they don't want to showboat or anything like that. They just want to go in, put in the work, and show it on the court.
Yeah, and that's what they've done this year. And I can attest to the Mark Brown Jr. and other players getting a lot of extra reps in the gym outside of practice. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to the gym to just play pickup ball, and Mark Brown Jr. is shooting free throws or on the shooting machine on the other end of the floor, which really shows his grit and his grind. And that, I mean, him being on the shooting machine is probably a big reason why he's improved his three-point and free throw shooting so much this year from last season, and that's been a huge catalyst to their offense being so well, as Mark Brown Jr. being able to shoot from the perimeter a lot better this year than he did last year.
Yep, no doubt.
So the Badgers, to get their 32nd win of the year, now that we're just kind of done having a good, fun conversation about how the team has gone and how much we've loved this team, let's get to actually some of the results from this past week. So the only game that was played that we had previewed on last week's show was the West District Championship versus the Region 1 champion, Eastern Arizona Gila Monsters. JC, the Gila Monsters came in with a very good record. I believe they only had 3 losses on the season. Yep. They were Region 1 champions, beating Eastern Arizona in the Region 1 championship game. They come into Ephraim. They play a very tough game. They didn't give it to the Badgers easily, but Coach May and his team and all the all-stars on this team that Coach May has were able to pull out a 9-point, 94-85 victory over Eastern Arizona to get the automatic bid to the national tournament. Yeah, and the biggest takeaway from this game is just how effective rebounding the Badgers were in this game. They out-rebounded Eastern Arizona 51-37 in this game, and it was really great to see. The superstars, they also shined out there very well for the Badgers. Isaac Garrett, 15 points, 11 rebounds, a double-double, also had 4 assists to go alongside that. Sean Feltz, he had 13 points, 4 rebounds, a block, and a steal, so a bit of a blend of defensive efficiency and offensive efficiency. So it was a really, really great game to watch for the Badgers, seeing them be as consistent as they were. Had a few hiccups, like you said. Gila Monsters, they did not make it easy for them, but at the end of the day, the Badgers are a very resilient team, phenomenal stamina as well, and they were just really, really phenomenal on this one. Yeah, you talk about the Gila Monsters not really giving up. They shot 44% from the field in this game, which isn't the best, but it's also a good percentage for a team overall. They also had 4 players in double figures. I believe JT Elder had over 20 points in this game. He played very well. The Badgers, I thought, did an excellent job guarding Amari Caraway and making him be a playmaker and not a scorer. I thought that went into Coach May's favor with his team there. But on the defensive end, I thought this Eastern Arizona team was a really good test for Coach May and his team going into the national tournament, because this Eastern Arizona team, I think, is the best defense on the perimeter that the Badgers have played, at least in Ephraim. So that I've seen in person, I think this is the best perimeter defense that the Badgers have faced all season. And that's just me saying teams in person. I have watched a lot of their road games, as many as I could, but it's different when you're watching it in person versus when you're watching it through a screen. So I think that this type of defense really pushed the Badgers. And I mean, after being down at halftime, Eastern Arizona cut it to 6 points multiple times in the second half, and the Badgers were just able to push and push and push away and then come out with that lead. So I thought that really showed something to the resiliency and the toughness of this team. Yep, no doubt. And so with that, Isaac Garrett played very well in this game. Isaac Finlinson played well in this game, shot a little bit uncharacteristically low from the free throw line, and we'll get to that in a second. But Isaac Garrett played well. He had 15 points, 11 rebounds and 4 assists. And while we're talking about Isaac Garrett, you mentioned players working out of practice and working to improve their game and their jump shots and stuff outside of practice. I went to the gym yesterday to play some pickup basketball. I saw Isaac Garrett in there. He came in after I did, got on the shooting machine, got off. I was done playing pickup and played 2 games of horse.
Really?
I can shoot the 3 better than Garrett. I found out, but he knows how to bank in a jump shot from any spot on the floor. So Isaac Garrett, just a great player, a great guy. Finished with 15 points, 11 rebounds for another double-double on the year. 4 assists. Sean Phelps, phenomenal game from Coach May's freshman center.
Yep.
13 points, 4 rebounds, 1 block, and a steal. I thought he was excellent on both the offense and defensive end in this game.
Yep, and he's not just the only center I thought that had a really phenomenal game on both ends of the court. Kyle Lemke had a phenomenal game, also had 13 points, and was also very efficient in his paint defense as well. So a lot of credit goes to the Badger centers in this one.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. They all played very well. I believe Coach May's team had 5 players in double figures in this game. Let me double check that for sure, but I believe that's what it was. And which is really interesting because Coach May's team normally, with the players on this team, most of them shoot the 3 very well.
Yeah.
Both teams in this game did not shoot the 3 very well.
No. But I think a lot of the Badgers' progress and efficiency really came from those mid-range shots that you mentioned with Isaac Garrett. I saw a great blend of those mid-range shots from him and also going to work in the paint as well. And being able to go up for offensive and defensive rebounds, it was just phenomenal to watch, a phenomenal effort from him individually. But I think the rest of the team all around him had a phenomenal day from the field with those mid-range shots, and it was just really entertaining.
Yeah, so the Badgers did have 5 players in double figures. It was Garrett, as I mentioned, Phelps with the 13 points, as I mentioned, and then Lemke had the 13 points, like you said. It was Chance Trujillo had 11 points. Surprisingly, 0 for 0 from 3. Chance did not even shoot a 3 in this game, and he's a 40% plus 3-point shooter on the season.
Right.
And the most volume 3-point shooter that Coach May has on the team.
Right, and I think that's what the Gila Monsters really wanted to shut down was that 3-point line. So the Badgers had to realize that, and I think that the biggest key for them in that one, I already mentioned obviously hitting the mid-range shots, but it's how you set up those shots that really gets you wide open. So the Badgers, they did a phenomenal job of taking the Gila Monsters off the dribble, initially going in for the drives and layups, instead taking those step backs.
Yeah, and taking away the 3 is something that the Gila Monsters did that I was kind of alluding to with their perimeter defense being really good. Is I think they defended our 3-point shooters probably some of the best that I've seen all season. And Isaac Finlinson was the last player to score double digits on the list. 16 points, 6 of 11 from the field, 1 for 4 from 3, which is pretty uncharacteristic for him. But the big one is he was 3 for 9 from the free throw line.
Yeah.
And it's very uncharacteristic for him. Isaac Finlinson, I believe, is an 87% free throw shooter on the year.
Yep, I believe he's second on the team this year as well.
I think he is. And it's just very odd that he tends to do that. That he did do that in a game where he entered only 16 points away from being the 5th 1,000-point scorer in Snow College history. And it didn't look like he was going to get it there.
Yeah.
But then with about 10 seconds left, the Gila Monsters did foul, being down, I believe it was 7. So they fouled. Finlinson went to the free throw line, or they were down 8 because Finlinson went 1 for 2. So he misses the first one with 15 points and then makes the second one and becomes the 5th 1,000-point scorer in school history. He's this week's Player of the Week for the King of the Court for this Inside Badger Hoops, and then he's also the Scenic West Athletic Conference Player of the Week. And for those of you who follow college basketball as a whole overall for the whole season, the JUCO Jam guys that work for the NJCAA network that have their podcast that comes out once a week, they cover the entire sport all over the country. Isaac Finlinson was their National Player of the Year. Coach May was their Coach of the Year. And that's not an official NJCAA National Player of the Year or National Coach of the Year. That's not official NJCAA. But these guys on their show had Finlinson as their Player of the Year, Coach May as their Coach of the Year. So Isaac Finlinson, credit to you for a phenomenal season, 627 points this year. I believe he had shot, he was close to a 50, 40, 90 shooter this year. And the only thing that he wasn't was a 40 or a 90% free throw shooter. Now he's at 39.9% from the three-point line, which you can just round up to 40%, but he's been shooting over 50% from the field, over 40% from three, and just under 90% from the free throw line.
Yep, no doubt, and it's just a phenomenal milestone. It's kind of storybook, I think, for him to finish at 1,000 points exactly at the Hornet Activity Center. I was a little anxious a little bit when he missed that first free throw, I'll admit.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he was able to hit the second one. Just a phenomenal milestone for a really, really phenomenal and talented player.
Yeah, and when I talked to Coach May yesterday, I asked him, I was like, so Finlayson scored 1,000 points. What was it about him that really, that you can really express that allowed him to be this type of player? And he was like, he told me that, again, I'm paraphrasing, that Finlayson is just a winner. He will do everything that it takes for his team to win. And I mean, he led the team in scoring last year, and Coach May had told him that, because Finlayson had Division I offers last year at the end of the season and could have gone elsewhere. Coach May said that if you want to stay, you can stay. I think we have the ability to have a special season. I think you have the ability to become player of the year, and I think we have the ability, if you come back, to be able to win the conference. All of that happened, and Finlayson became the fifth player to score 1,000 points in a Snow College uniform. So just a phenomenal year. Coach May has very high praise for Isaac Finlayson, not just as a scorer, but as a player and as a person, and as a teammate. Very, very high praise from Coach May for Isaac Finlayson, and it's just been a phenomenal year to watch him play.
Yep, no doubt. Just seeing him evolve his game to the level that it has this year, it's just been so entertaining for me. And gonna repeat myself, just a phenomenal player, just a beyond incredible season from him.
Yep, couldn't agree more. I mean, he had an excellent season after leading the team in scoring last year. Doing it again this year in a really good league is not easy to do. Scoring 1,000 points is not easy to do. Isaac Finlayson has that type of skill set, and Coach May had very high praise for him, like I said. Now, before we move on to talk about the national tournament and where the Badgers stand there, I want to take one jump back and give the queen of the court from the women's region tournament a shout out here. Ayanna Bay played phenomenally well in that Region 18 tournament championship game. She had, I believe, only 9 points in the game against North Idaho, but played phenomenally well against Salt Lake Community College. That run in the third quarter, the 20-9 third quarter run, was mainly due to Ayanna Bay. You mentioned she had 11 points. She played very well. She put the team on her back, both on the court and in the huddle. Her energy and her body language really sparked the team to be able to come back into this game.
Just a phenomenal leadership from her as well. I mean,
most definitely.
Just consistent play overall in the North Idaho game. It was really on the defensive end where she really made her stand. Only had the 7 points, but 10 rebounds, 8 of which were on the defensive end as well. And those 5 blocks were just huge motivation boost for the Badgers in that game. Against the Bruins, dropped 19 points. Those 11 points in the third quarter. That was really the spark that really gave the Badgers the energy to go and make that sort of comeback in the second half. And then she also had the 7 rebounds and stayed pretty consistent in the paint defense, had a steal and 1 block. So just an overall phenomenal 2-game performance.
Yep, I couldn't agree. That game from her was really fun to watch. When I was talking to Coach Zhu yesterday, I had asked her, so when you started 5-1 and then you finish 8-1, for a total of 9-6 on the season, Ayanna Bay was injured for a couple of those games in that 1-5. In those first 6 games when they went 1-5, Ayanna Bay was injured. She came back, I believe, their 6th game, and then played the rest of the last 9 games, and she was a huge spark for this team coming in. So I had asked Coach May, what was it about Ayanna Bay coming back from injury that really helped spark you guys to go on that run? And she had just expressed that Ayanna Bay, being one of the captains, really led the team both on and off the court with her energy and then with her play style more than ever. I mean, her defensive presence and her mismatches that she gave Coach Zhu's team on the offensive end were probably the biggest catalysts of her and why she was able to help the team win so much. On the offensive end, she's quicker than most of the other bigs in the league, so she can do a very good job there, and she's an excellent shot blocker. Like you mentioned, 5 blocks against North Idaho. And that type of play can really push a team to another level, and that's kind of what Coach May tried to express to me yesterday in my interview with her about Ayanna Bay.
Exactly that. Really great words, all the right words as well. I mean, Ayanna Bay, just a phenomenal overall player, just like I said with Finlinson, beyond great season, especially coming back from injury, like really came back better than ever, I thought, and it was just really awesome to see her just be so productive both ends of the court.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. So now let's move on to the national tournament here, with the Badgers winning the automatic bid against the Eastern Arizona Gila Monsters on Friday. With that win that we had just discussed, they get the automatic bid, 32-1 on the season, #1 team in the country since December 16th, and they received the #1 seed. Now, in the NJCAA tournament, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's a 24-team tournament with the top 8 seeds receiving a first-round bye. So there's 16 districts, 16 teams that receive automatic bids, and there's 8 at-large bids. The Badgers won their automatic bid, get the #1 overall, the #1 seed, and get the first-round bye. So with that, and the top 8 seeds get the first-round bye, there are 4 games that are played, and so 8 teams in that first round, 4 games. They move on to play in the second round. The Badgers will play the winner of John A. Logan College and Connors State College. JC, that's a 16 versus 17 matchup in the seed line. I was talking to Coach May yesterday, and he had expressed that teams that in that get to play in that first round get to get comfortable in the gym, in the arena, and then they get to go play a #1 seed or a #2 seed or a #6 seed, right?
Right.
After playing a game and being familiar with the arena and being confident with their play in the arena. Whereas the teams that get the first round bye have to just play, they have to get familiar in the gym and with the arena, and whether it's got a lot of fans or no fans, they have to try and get comfortable in a new place against a team who's already comfortable. And Coach May has showed his team the number of teams that have lost in their first game against teams who won their first round game. So the teams that had lost who had a first round bye. Coach May definitely expressed that just because you're a #1 seed does not mean that you get a automatic win in the first round. It's not like the NCAA tournament where you're playing a 16 seed. Now, the Badgers might play the 16 seed, but the problem is in the NCAA tournament, there's 4 16 seeds, which are the, I guess you could have say, ranked 60, 61st, 62nd, and 64th teams, right? Whereas in this, your 16 seed is going to be more like a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament, because they're going to be the 16th best team in the country, per se. That's not, always true, but that's kind of the way Coach May expressed it to me yesterday with this tournament.
Yeah, and I think that's really the mentality the Badgers have to go in here, and Andrew May described it exactly with those 2 teams, John A. Logan College and Connors State College, being familiar with the court they're going to play on against the Badgers, whether and or one of them is going to play the Badgers. So I think that's really the mentality that the team has to live up to as well, like really go off of the example that Andrew May is going and really focus and try not to be unfamiliar with the court that they're on.
Yep. And I asked Coach May, I talked to him about it, I was like, what does it take for a team to go 32-1 and undefeated on the road and 7-1 in conference? And he had just expressed toughness. There's toughness, toughness, toughness. That's the most important part, and that's what this team has. He was very expressive of how tough and coercive of a unit his team is, and we talked about how good of a team they are and how close of a team they are, and that helps build team toughness rather than just individual toughness. And Coach May knows that type of toughness is going to show up for him in Hutchinson, Kansas, against either John A. Logan, who is 23-9 overall, or Connors State, who is 28-3 overall. Both of these teams played very well in their regular season. John A. Logan College within Region 24 was 14-2. Connors State College was 14-2 within Region 2. And John A. Logan College defeated Kaskaskia College. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. To claim the Central District Championship automatic bid. And then Connors State won 17 of their last 18 games. So not a 25-game win streak, but definitely, I believe it's a 10-game win streak currently for Connors State, 17 of their last 18. So that's, you can say Connors State's coming into the tournament as a pretty hot team. They finished with a win over Northeast Oklahoma A&M College in their district championship, which was the South Central District. And Northeast Oklahoma A&M College was a team that I believe got up to number 5 or 6 in the national rankings during the season. and NEO did not make the tournament because they lost their automatic bid against Connor State. So Connor State comes in a little bit of an underdog against NEO. They come out with a win. Now they get to play John A. Logan, who is coming in 23-9 overall, 14-2 with an automatic bid championship of their own. So Coach May going to get a district championship regardless of who wins this game. JC, this should be a fun matchup to watch. I'm probably going to watch this one in preparation of watching the Snow College Badgers take on the winner of this game.
Yeah, and no doubt, I think that the team that obviously I think has the edge and going into this one is Connor State College, because they have won 17 of the last 18, like you mentioned. So in my opinion, I think Connor State is a really, really confident team right now, and they are really, really motivated to go out there and show out in this tournament. So I think Connor State College has the edge in this one.
You would notice this when we were doing the research for this. Connor State averages 45.2 rebounds per game, which is third in the country. So you had pointed it out that if Connor State wins, that's something the Badgers would really, really need to focus on in order to come out with the win against Connor State. But there's also a few other things that they're going to need to focus on, not just rebounding. That doesn't matter who wins this game.
Right.
Just whether the Badgers play John A. Logan or Connor State, what are the keys to come out with a win in the first, technically, I guess, second round, but in the Badgers' first game of the NJCAA National Tournament. Right.
Well, obviously, the out-rebounding, we just talked about that. That's obviously going to be huge. If they are specifically, again, if they're going to go against Connor State College, that's going to be huge for them, out-rebounding in that game. I think shoot better from the three as well, and from the free throw line, that's going to be huge. Obviously, seeing the Badgers sort of struggle from the three and free throw range last week against Eastern Arizona, very uncharacteristic. I think that's something they're really going to work on improving on this week in practice. Limit turnovers and force turnovers as well. I think they had double-digit turnovers again against
12 turnovers against Eastern, and they forced 13.
Right. So that's definitely something that they want to do again in this tournament. And my final key for them is protect the ball and hold their own on the perimeter on defense, protect the paint on defense, and defend the perimeter as well.
Yep. Protecting the paint is going to be huge. Sean Feltz, Kyle Lemke, and Isaac Garrett and Aaron Bliss have been huge in protecting the paint this year for Coach May. They've all done an excellent job there. Mark Brown Jr., Chance Trujillo have done an excellent job guarding out on the perimeter. Chance is probably the best perimeter wing defender on this team. I mean, we saw him guard Xavier Edmonds and hold his own when he had to. So I think that proves a big advantage for Coach May's team, having experience played against players like Edmonds and being able to have those types of defenders.
Yep.
So with this game, the Badgers will play at 11 a.m. on Monday, March 24th. So it'll be an early tip, and that's Monday, Utah time, so Mountain Daylight Time. That's a 12 a.m. local tip time, or I guess 12 p.m. It's noon out there in Hutchinson, Kansas, 11 a.m. here for Utah local time. So, and you can watch this game on ESPN Plus. The entire tournament, if you're interested enough, will be on ESPN Plus. I believe it's only $5 or $6 a month to subscribe for ESPN Plus, so I'll be subscribing to that in order to get this game, watch the John A. Logan versus Connor State game, watch the Badgers take on the winner of that game, and probably some of the rest of the tournament as well. So it's 11 a.m. on Monday, March 24th. And JC, let's take a look at the rest of the schedule here. If the Badgers are to win against the winner of John A. Logan and Connor State, if they're able to win on Monday, they will then play Wednesday again at 11 a.m. Utah time, Mountain Daylight Time. Then if the Badgers win that, this is just kind of going along with the tournament schedule. The semifinal would be Friday at 4:30 p.m. Utah time, 5:30 p.m. Central time, Central Division time, I believe. And then the championship game is going to be on Saturday, I believe that would be March 28th. I'm not the best with the days here. Let me pull up the calendar. Yes, so March 29th is when the championship would be. So the Badgers will be traveling out to Hutchinson, Kansas this week to watch their game, to watch the game of Connor State and John A. Logan, who I believe play Saturday.
Yep.
So the team is going out there later this week. They'll stay the weekend, get a couple practices in, play their game Monday. And if they win, they advance to Wednesday. If they win Wednesday, they advance to Friday. And then if they win Friday, they advance to the national championship game, which would be on Saturday at 11 a.m. again, a lot of 11 a.m. slash noon tips, but with the national championship being on ESPNU, so that's going to be a nationally televised broadcast for that game. And with the NCAA tournament going on, the Division I NCAA March Madness tournament going on, it makes sense that they would put that game at noon.
Yep.
So for more information on the national tournament and this Badgers team, you can go to snowbadgers.com. You can go and read the articles that I will be posting here in a couple days at, I believe it's snowcollegenews.com, and it will be a phenomenal tournament. I can't wait to watch it. JC, any closing thoughts on this season? I mean, we were bringing the equipment back here from the gym the other day, and it was a sad, sad moment.
Yeah, bittersweet moment, but my final words is excitement. I mean, I am beyond excited for this tournament. It's a lot of basketball still to be played. It's just going to be such a fun rest of the month.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's March. It's the best time of year. So it's also the best. It's not the best time of year, but it's also a very, very sad time of year. So thank you very much for watching. We will be back next Tuesday to discuss the John A. Logan Connors State game against the Badgers. So whoever wins that game and against the Badgers, if the Badgers win their first round game, or their game against, their first round game. I guess technically it's second round, but it's their first round game. If the Badgers win that, then we will be on next week to discuss that win, and the following week to discuss how the Badgers played out the rest of the tournament. If the Badgers lose next week on Monday, which I don't think they will, and cross your fingers, but if the Badgers lose next Monday, then next Tuesday will be our last show here on Inside Badger Hoops. This is a Snow College basketball show. So thank you very much for following along with us this season. We'll see you next week for maybe the last time, but hopefully / probably not. Thank you very much for watching Inside Badger Hoops. Have a great day.